At 8:47 a.m. on September 23, 1942, Senior Sergeant Dmitri Vasilyevich Ovcharenko crouched behind a pile of shattered brick in the Barrikady factory district of Stalingrad, watching 32 German infantry advance across 400 yards of rubble toward his position. His Maxim M1910 machine gun sat on its Sokolov wheeled mount, 250-round belt loaded, water jacket full. The morning air smelled like cordite, brick dust, and burning oil from 3 destroyed T-34 tanks smoking 200 yards to his right. Ovcharenko was 32 years old, 8 months in continuous combat, 0 assistant gunners left alive. The Germans were moving in 3 separate groups: 12 men center, 10 men left flank, 10 men right flank. Standard assault pattern. They would pin him with frontal fire while the flanking groups closed from both sides. He had maybe 8 minutes before they reached killing range. Standard Soviet doctrine said, "Hold this position until ordered to withdraw." Ovcharenko knew the truth. Standard doctrine was killing machine gunners every single day. He watched the Germans navigate through rubble, picking their way past collapsed walls and shell craters. Professional soldiers, experienced. They knew exactly what they were doing. They'd done this before. They'd killed Soviet machine gunners before, probably dozens of them. The pattern never changed. Ovcharenko had watched it happen 4 times already. 4 different assistant gunners, 4 funerals. Today would be different. Today he had 20 meters of parachute cord and an idea that violated every regulation in the Red Army machine gun manual. The Maxim M1910 machine gun was a masterpiece of Imperial Russian engineering. Designed in 1884 by Hiram Maxim, adopted by the Russian Empire in 1910, still in service 32 years later. The gun itself weighed 23.8 kilograms. Water-cooled barrel, recoil-operated action, cloth ammunition belt feeding from the left side. Rate of fire: 600 rounds per minute maximum, 250 rounds sustained without barrel damage. Effective range: 1,000 meters when properly mounted. Cooling system required 4 liters of water in the barrel jacket. That water added another 4 kilograms to the total weight. The Sokolov wheeled mount added 21.3 kilograms. 2 large wheels, steel shield, adjustable elevating mechanism. Total system weight: 45.1 kilograms, 99.4 pounds. Nearly 100 pounds of steel, water, ammunition, and wheeled carriage. The mount was designed for fixed defensive positions. You rolled it into place, set the elevation, loaded the belt, and fired. When you needed to move, you had 2 options. Option 1: keep the gun on the mount, roll it. Maximum speed, 1 kilometer per hour over rubble. You were completely exposed. Easy target. Option 2: disassemble. Remove gun front and mount. 1 man carries the gun, 23.8 kilograms. Another man carries the mount, 21.3 kilograms. Move to new position, reassemble, reconnect water jacket, load ammunition belt, resume firing. Time required with a trained 2-man crew: 7 minutes minimum for disassembly, 7 minutes for reassembly. 14 minutes total. 14 minutes of complete vulnerability. German infantry advanced through urban rubble at 3 to 5 kilometers per hour. At 400 yards, they could close to 50 yards in 4 minutes. Soviet crews needed 14 minutes to relocate. The mathematics were brutal and simple. The mobility differential meant German infantry dictated every engagement. They closed from safe distance to grenade range, while Soviet gunners fumbled with mount pins and water jacket connections. At 50 yards, German MP-40 submachine guns and stick grenades neutralized any advantage the Maxim provided. The machine gun was an outstanding weapon. The doctrine for moving it was killing everyone who used it. Between June and September 1942, the Red Army lost 847 Maxim machine gun crews in the Stalingrad sector. Not because the guns malfunctioned, not because the crews were inadequately trained, because German assault tactics had evolved faster than Soviet defensive doctrine. May 1942. Germans attacked fixed positions frontally. Soviet machine guns shredded those attacks. Kill ratios favored the defense 12-1. June 1942. Germans started flanking through rubble. Soviet crews tried to relocate. Casualties increased. July 1942. Germans refined their tactics. Multiple simultaneous flanking movements. Soviet crews caught during disassembly. Kill ratios reversed. August 1942. Germans could predict relocation timing. 7 minutes for disassembly. Soviet gunners died with wrenches in their hands. September 1942. 847 crews lost. Average crew survival time, 6.3 days. Primary cause of death, killed during repositioning, 73%. Secondary cause, overrun in fixed positions, 21%. Actual combat losses while firing, 6%. The gun wasn't the problem. The mount was the problem. Soviet command issued new orders throughout this period. Faster disassembly. Impossible. The mount had 14 connection points that required tools. Better defensive positions. The rubble of Stalingrad offered no better positions. Hold positions longer before relocating. This just increased casualties. No modification to equipment was authorized. The manual was explicit. The Maxim M1910 is a crew-served weapon requiring proper mounting for sustained fire operations. Doctrine said the mount was essential. 847 dead gunners suggested otherwise. Dmitri Vasilyevich Ovcharenko was born in Odessa, Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, 1910. Dock worker before the war. Stevedore. 5 feet 9 inches tall, 180 pounds. Shoulders like bridge cables from 12 years loading cargo ships. He could carry 50-kilogram sacks of grain from ship holds to dock warehouses. Knew how to distribute weight across his body using rope harnesses. Conscripted, June 1940. Assigned to machine gun company after basic training. Standard 6-week machine gun course. Scored average on technical knowledge. Scored above average on physical strength tests. 8 months continuous combat. Retreated through 3 cities, Kharkov, Voronezh, Stalingrad. He'd watched the German advance firsthand, watched Soviet defenses break, watched cities burn. He wasn't ideological, wasn't heroic, wasn't special, he was practical. Dock workers were practical. You solved problems with the tools available. You didn't wait for perfect solutions. You used what you had. Rope, leverage, weight distribution. Ovcharenko saw the Maxim the way he'd seen cargo at Odessa docks. A weight distribution problem. The gun was manageable. 23.8 kilograms. He'd carried heavier loads. The mount added 21.3 kilograms, but provided only stability. The mount was designed in 1910 for trench warfare. Static positions. Predictable fields of fire. Stalingrad in 1942 was nothing like that. Rubble. Constant movement. Flanking attacks. The mount wasn't helping. It was killing people. What made Ovcharenko different from 847 dead gunners wasn't training, wasn't courage, wasn't tactical brilliance. He just recognized that the problem wasn't the gun's weight, it was how you carried it. And he knew how to carry heavy things. He'd been doing it since he was 19 years old. Ovcharenko had lost 4 assistant gunners. Ilya Grigorovich, 19 years old. Baker's son from Kursk. Killed July 18, 1942, carrying the Sokolov mount during withdrawal from defensive position. German MP-40 burst caught him in the back at 30 yards. 3 rounds. Ilya died holding the mount, trying to reach new position 80 yards away. Ovcharenko had to leave the body and the mount. Couldn't carry both. Couldn't carry either while German infantry advanced. He grabbed the gun itself, ran, took rifle fire, made it to new position, survived. Ilya didn't. Pavel Andreevich, 21 years old, farmer from Tambov Oblast, killed August 7, 1942, during gun reassembly after repositioning. They'd made it to new position, started putting the gun back together. Pavel was reconnecting water jacket to barrel assembly. Took rifle round through chest at 120 yards. German sharpshooter. Pavel bled out in 4 minutes while Ovcharenko tried to stop the bleeding and finish assembly simultaneously. Couldn't do both. Chose assembly. Gun became operational 3 minutes after Pavel died. Ovcharenko used it to kill the sharpshooter. Didn't help Pavel. Sergei Mikhailovich, 20 years old. Factory worker from Stalingrad itself. Knew the city, knew good positions. Killed August 24, 1942, by stick grenade during disassembly. German squad had flanked their position while they were taking the gun apart. Grenade landed between them. Sergei shielded Ovcharenko from the blast. Took most of the shrapnel. Died instantly. Ovcharenko survived with minor wounds, used Sergei's body for cover. Fired the half-disassembled gun one-handed. Killed 2 Germans. Drove the others back. Finished disassembly alone. Relocated alone. Survived. Sergei didn't. Konstantin Petrovich, 23 years old. Teacher from Voronezh. Most experienced assistant gunner Ovcharenko had worked with. 3 months together. Good soldier. Smart. Careful. Killed September 18, 1942. 5 days before this story opens. Killed by rifle fire while carrying ammunition boxes during repositioning. Wasn't even carrying the gun or mount. Just ammunition. 300 rounds in canvas boxes. 12 kilograms total. German riflemen shot him at 90 yards. 2 rounds. Konstantin fell. Dropped the ammunition. Looked at Ovcharenko. Last words. Dmitri, we're going to die like all the others. Then he died. Ovcharenko carried the gun alone. Left the mount behind. Survived. Konstantin didn't. 4 assistant gunners. 4 deaths during repositioning. 0 deaths during actual firing. The pattern was clear. The doctrine was flawed. Something had to change. Ovcharenko decided that something would be rope. The night of September 22nd, 1942. 23:20 hours. Ovcharenko sat alone in the basement of a destroyed apartment building, 300 yards behind the front line. His Maxim M1910 lay beside him. The Sokolov mount stood against the wall. Konstantin had been dead for 4 hours, buried in a shell crater with 11 other soldiers from the company. No ceremony, no words. Just bodies wrapped in tent canvas and covered with rubble. That was how you buried people in Stalingrad, fast, before the smell got worse. Ovcharenko had salvaged Konstantin's personal effects, photographs, letters, would send them to Konstantin's mother in Voronezh if the postal system still worked. If Voronezh still existed, if Konstantin's mother was still alive. Too many ifs in this war. One certainty. Tomorrow he would receive a new assistant gunner. Some 19-year-old conscript who'd never seen combat. Who'd get 4 days of hasty training on the Maxim. Who'd die within a week carrying the mount or fumbling with reassembly. Unless something changed. Ovcharenko stared at the parachute cord coiled on the floor beside him. 20 meters. Salvaged 3 days earlier from a crashed Il-2 Sturmovik attack aircraft. The parachute itself was destroyed by fire. The shroud lines were intact. Nylon cord, 7 millimeters thick, rated for 350 kilograms tensile strength. He'd kept it without knowing why. Dock worker instinct. Good rope was always useful. Now he knew why he'd kept it. At Odessa docks before the war, Ovcharenko had carried 50-kilogram sacks using rope harnesses. Standard stevedore technique. You couldn't carry 50 kilograms with just your arms. Not for 12-hour shifts, not day after day. You needed weight distribution. The harness spread load across shoulders, upper back, and chest. Used your entire torso instead of just arm muscles. You could carry 50 kilograms all day with proper harness. Without harness, you'd last maybe 2 hours before your arms gave out. The Maxim without its mount weighed 23.8 kilograms. With water jacket half full, 25.8 kilograms. With one ammunition belt, 28.3 kilograms. Well within carrying capacity, the mount added 21.3 kilograms, but provided only one thing: stability, a platform for the gun to rest on while firing. The question Ovcharenko had been thinking about for 8 months. Could you achieve stability without the mount? Could you brace the gun against your own body? Use yourself as the platform? It was insane. Every machine gun manual since 1884 said heavy machine guns required mounting. Tripods, bipods, wheeled carriages, something solid, something that wasn't flesh and bone. But Ovcharenko had watched 4 assistant gunners die following manuals. He was done with manuals. He picked up the parachute cord, cut it into 4-meter sections using his bayonet. 5 sections total. First section, wrapped around the water jacket twice. The jacket was cylindrical, smooth metal, rope slipped. He tied it tighter, used square knot, dock worker knot. Secure under tension, tested it, held firm. Second section, shoulder strap, right side. Tied one end to the water jacket wrapping, measured length by draping it over his shoulder. Needed to reach his left hip. Cut at 4.2 meters, tied to water jacket. Third section, shoulder strap, left side, mirror of right strap, same length, same knot. Now the gun had 2 straps like a rucksack. He lifted it. Weight settled across shoulders, bearable. But the gun wanted to pitch forward. Too much weight at the barrel. Needed counterbalance. Fourth section. Support loop for left forearm. Tied to the rear of the receiver. Created a loop he could slip his forearm through. Tested it. Left arm took some of the forward weight. Better. Gun stayed more horizontal. Fifth section. Chest strap. Connected the 2 shoulder straps across his chest. Prevented them from sliding off his shoulders. Standard rucksack design. He'd seen German soldiers use similar chest straps on their equipment. Good engineering. He tested the complete harness standing, slipped both arms through. Gun hung across his front at waist level. Weight distributed across shoulders and upper back. Left forearm through support loop. Chest strap tight. Total construction time, 37 minutes. He took 10 steps forward. Balance was tricky. Gun swung slightly with each step. He compensated. Leaned back slightly. After 20 steps, found the rhythm. Not comfortable, but bearable. Could he fire it? That was the real question. The belt feed mechanism was the problem. The Maxim fed from the left side. Cloth ammunition belt entered the feed mechanism. Gun fired. Spent belt exited right side. Normal operation required the belt to feed smoothly. If the belt twisted or kinked, gun jammed. On the mount, belt boxes kept tension constant. Without mount, belt would drag on ground. Solution: modified ammunition box. He took a standard Soviet ammunition tin, removed the lid, punched holes in 2 corners, threaded parachute cord through holes, created a shoulder strap for the ammo box. Now the box hung at his left hip. Belt fed from box to gun. No ground contact, no dragging. He loaded a belt, 250 rounds, 7.5 kilograms, hung the ammo box from his shoulder, gun across his chest. Total weight, 33.3 kilograms. He'd carried heavier at the docks. He aimed at the far wall of the basement. Empty wall, no windows. Safe backstop. Pulled the trigger on the unloaded gun, felt the mechanical action, smooth, no binding. The gun would probably work, but firing created recoil. 7.92 millimeter cartridge, 54-gram bullet at 865 meters per second. Newton's third law meant equal and opposite reaction. That reaction went into the gun, usually into the mount, now into Ovcharenko's body. He'd taken rifle recoil before. Mosin Nagant kicked hard, but single shots. The Maxim fired 600 rounds per minute, 10 rounds per second. 10 impacts per second into his shoulders and torso. It would hurt. It might knock him down. It might break bones. Or it might work. Only one way to find out. But not here, not in basement. Too enclosed, too loud. He'd test it tomorrow, in combat, when it mattered, when the alternative was dying like Constantine. That was the dock worker's way. Test under real conditions. Tomorrow morning, Germans would attack. He'd use the harness. Live or die, he'd know if it worked. Morning of September 23rd, 0847. Back to where this story started. Ovcharenko behind rubble pile. Germans 400 yards out. His Maxim still on its Sokolov mount, for now. The harness lay beside him. Parachute cord coiled. Ready. Standard procedure would unfold like this. Germans advance to 200 yards. Ovcharenko opens fire. Kills 5 to 8 Germans. Others take cover. German squads begin flanking movements. Ovcharenko receives order to relocate from company commander. He and assistant gunner disassemble gun. 7 minutes. Move to new position. Vulnerable. Exposed. Target. German riflemen shoot during movement. Reassemble gun. 7 more minutes. Resume firing. Except Ovcharenko had no assistant gunner. Constantine was dead. Replacement hadn't arrived yet. Company was short on men. So Ovcharenko was alone. Couldn't disassemble and move the gun alone. Not with the mount. Mount required 2 men minimum. But he didn't need the mount. He had rope. The Germans were at 350 yards now, moving steadily. Professional. Spread out, using cover. Not rushing. Taking their time. They'd done this before. 3 groups. Center group advancing straight toward his position. Left group angling through destroyed building at 10 o'clock. Right group using crater line at 2 o'clock. Classic envelopment. Pin with center. Kill with flanks. It worked. It had worked 847 times in 4 months. Ovcharenko watched them come. Estimated 8 minutes until they reached effective small arms range. 5 minutes until flanking groups reached assault positions. He had maybe 4 minutes to decide. Use doctrine and die. Or use rope and maybe die differently. He opened fire at 300 yards. 40-round burst. The Maxim hammered. Barrel spat flame. Brass cartridges ejected right. Belt fed left. Water in the jacket absorbed heat. Steam rose from the cooling vent. The gun worked perfectly. 3 Germans fell in the center group. Others dove for cover behind rubble. Exactly as predicted. Ovcharenko stopped firing. Watched. German flanking movements began immediately. Right group sprinting between craters. Left group entering building through collapsed wall. They'd reach flanking positions in 4 minutes. Standard Soviet response. Hold position. Die when flanked. Ovcharenko's response. Different. He released the mount pins, 4 quick-release clamps, design feature that usually helped. 30 seconds to detach. Gun separated from mount. 23.8 kilograms of steel and water. He lifted it. Slipped the rope harness over his shoulders. Weight settled. Familiar. Like carrying cargo at Odessa. Not comfortable, but manageable. Hung ammunition box from shoulder strap. 7.5 kilograms. Slipped left forearm through support loop. Gun now carried across his chest. Barrel pointing forward. Trigger accessible. Ready. Total transition time, 55 seconds. Not 7 minutes. 55 seconds. He started moving. First steps were awkward. Gun swung, threw off balance. He leaned back, compensated. After 10 steps, rhythm came. Same as carrying cargo. Center of mass over feet. Small steps. Don't rush, move deliberately. He crossed 80 yards of rubble in 3 minutes. Moved left from his original position. Found new rubble pile. Better angle. Now flanking the German right group instead of being flanked by them. They were still moving toward his old position. Looking the wrong direction. Didn't expect Soviet machine gunner to relocate that fast. Soviet machine gunners didn't relocate that fast. Except this one just had. 0855. New position. Ovcharenko crouched behind different rubble pile, 80 yards from where he started. The German right group was 60 yards away. 10 men. Moving through craters, backs partially exposed. Didn't know he'd moved. Thought he was still at original position. Perfect enfilade angle. He could hit them from the side. But he wasn't mounted. Gun hung from rope harness. To fire, he had to stand. Brace against recoil. Aim by feel. This was the test. This would prove if rope worked or if he'd die stupidly. He stood. Braced left forearm through support loop. Right hand on pistol grip, finger on trigger. Aimed at German positions. Sight picture was crude. Gun not at shoulder, hanging at chest level. Sights not aligned properly. But Germans were 60 yards away. Couldn't miss at this range. Unless recoil knocked him down. He squeezed trigger. 5-round burst. The gun roared. Recoil slammed into his chest and shoulders. Massive. Brutal. Like being kicked by a horse 5 times in 1 second. Gun wanted to climb, muzzle rising. Rounds went high. Impacted building behind Germans. Brick fragments exploded. But he stayed on his feet. Harness held. Gun didn't fly out of his hands. He pulled down. Fought muzzle climb. Second burst. 5 rounds. Corrected aim lower. Anticipated recoil. Leaned harder into gun. Rounds hit closer. Brick dust around German positions. Still high, but closer. Germans turned. Saw him. Shocked. Soviet machine gunner firing standing up? Impossible. Their training said impossible. Their experience said impossible. But bullets don't care about doctrine. Third burst. 7 rounds. He had the rhythm now. Short bursts. Pull down against climb. Lean into recoil. Shoulder straps took the force. Distributed across torso. Not comfortable. Painful, but bearable. Rounds walked into German position. 2 Germans fell. Others scrambled. Confusion. Fear. Their attack plan assumed fixed machine gun. Immobile target. This wasn't fixed. This wasn't immobile. This was something they'd never seen. German return fire came immediately. Rifles. MP-40 submachine guns. Rounds cracked past. Hit rubble. Fragments stung Ovcharenko's face. But he was stationary for only 20 seconds. Long enough to fire 3 bursts. 37 rounds total. 2 Germans down. Then he moved again. Shifted position 30 yards right. Used different rubble pile. Germans were shooting at where he'd been. Empty space. Wasted ammunition. He fired from new position. 6-round burst. 1 more German fell. The tactical advantage was obvious now. Germans expected fixed position. Planned tactics around immobile heavy weapon. Ovcharenko was now mobile heavy weapon. Every time they adjusted to his position, he moved. Every time they tried to flank, he flanked them first. They couldn't pin him, couldn't predict him. Their numerical advantage didn't matter. At 0903, 16 minutes after engagement started, German assault broke. 6 Germans dead. 26 withdrew to 400 yards. Ovcharenko was still alive, guns still functional, barrel hot, very hot. But water cooling system worked. Not as efficient as sustained firing on mount, but short bursts kept temperature manageable. He'd fired approximately 180 rounds. 70 rounds remaining in current belt. He crouched behind rubble. Checked the harness. Parachute cord showed strain, abraded at shoulder contact points, but intact, holding. He'd survived. The rope harness worked. Not well, not comfortably, not the way manuals prescribed. But it worked well enough to kill Germans, well enough to stay alive, well enough to prove that 20 meters of parachute cord was more valuable than 21.3 kilograms of wheeled mount. 400 yards away, German officers were reorganizing their squads, trying to understand what just happened. How Soviet machine gunner moved that fast, how he fired without mount. 40 yards to Ovcharenko's left, Corporal Grigory Volkov watched from a rifle position. He'd seen everything. Seen Ovcharenko move with the gun, seen him fire standing, seen him survive. Volkov would tell other soldiers. Word would spread. By evening, everyone in the company would know. By tomorrow, machine gunners would ask questions. How did you do that? Can you show me? Can you make one for my gun? The innovation was about to spread. Not through official channels, not through orders, through soldiers who wanted to live. 0915. Corporal Grigory Volkov approached Ovcharenko's position. Volkov was 24 years old, rifleman, Mosin Nagant, 8 weeks in Stalingrad. Good soldier, careful. He'd watched the entire engagement from 40 yards away. Watched Ovcharenko detach the gun, watched him strap it on, watched him move, watched him fire standing, watched him survive what should have killed him. Volkov carried his rifle slung, hands empty, non-threatening approach, called out from 10 yards. "Comrade Sergeant, may I approach?" Ovcharenko waved him forward. Volkov came close, stared at the rope harness, touched the parachute cord, examined the knots. "What is this?" Simple question. Ovcharenko gave simple answer. "Carrying harness, weight distribution, like dock workers use." Volkov nodded slowly. "Does it work?" Ovcharenko gestured at the German bodies 60 yards away. 6 dead. 26 retreated. "I'm alive. My last 4 assistant gunners died moving the mount." Volkov understood immediately. Not stupid. Combat veteran. Recognized survival advantage when he saw it. "Can you make one for Sergeant Kuznetsov's gun?" Kuznetsov was another machine gunner, 200 yards east. Same company, same problems, same doctrine killing his crews. Ovcharenko looked at Volkov. "Kuznetsov would need parachute cord. 20 meters, maybe belt webbing. Something strong." Volkov. "There's a destroyed German truck near the tractor factory. Has cargo straps. I can get them." Ovcharenko. "Then yes, I can show him how." Word was spreading. 30 minutes after the innovation worked. Already spreading. 0930. Senior Sergeant Boris Kuznetsov arrived. 31 years old. Leningrad. Machine gunner for 3 years. Professional. Experienced. He'd heard from Volkov. Wanted to see the harness himself. Ovcharenko showed him. Demonstrated the construction. Shoulder straps, support loop, chest strap, ammunition box carrier. Kuznetsov examined every knot, tested the cord strength, lifted the gun with harness attached, felt the weight distribution, put it down, looked at Ovcharenko. This is insane. This violates every regulation in the manual. Long pause. 3 seconds. Then, I want one. Ovcharenko. You understand the risks? Court-martial, penal battalion, maybe execution. Kuznetsov. I understand. I've lost 3 assistant gunners in 6 weeks. All killed during repositioning. Not during fighting, during repositioning. Because the mount is too slow. Ovcharenko. The harness isn't perfect. Accuracy suffers beyond 100 yards. Barrel overheats faster. Recoil is brutal. Kuznetsov. But you're alive. Ovcharenko. Yes. Kuznetsov. My assistant gunner died 4 days ago. I'll take brutal recoil over dead assistant gunners. Practical logic. Survival logic. 2 machine gunners now understood. 2 would build harnesses. 2 would test them. If they survived, others would notice. 10:15. Lieutenant Alexei Nikolaevich Baranov arrived. Battalion political officer, 28 years old, true believer. Party member since 1937. His job was maintaining political discipline, ensuring doctrinal compliance, preventing unauthorized behavior. He'd heard about modifications to machine gun equipment. Came to investigate, found Ovcharenko cleaning his Maxim, harness visible, parachute cord obvious. Sokolov mount abandoned 15 yards away. Baranov's face went rigid. Comrade Sergeant, you have damaged state property. Ovcharenko stood, saluted. The gun functions perfectly, Comrade Lieutenant. Baranov pointed at the abandoned mount. The mount was removed without authorization. The Maxim M1910 requires mounting for proper operation. This is stated explicitly in Field Manual 43-217. Ovcharenko. The mount was killing my assistant gunners, Comrade Lieutenant. Baranov. Explain. Ovcharenko explained. 7 minutes for disassembly, 7 for reassembly. German infantry closed faster than crews could relocate. 4 assistant gunners dead. Ilya, Pavel, Sergei, Konstantin, all killed during repositioning. All following proper procedure. All dead anyway. The mount made them vulnerable. The harness made them mobile. Mobility meant survival. Baranov listened, face unchanged. When Ovcharenko finished, Baranov spoke. Regulations exist for reasons, Comrade Sergeant. Individual modifications undermine military discipline. You could face court-martial. Ovcharenko. Yes, Comrade Lieutenant. Baranov. You could face penal battalion. Ovcharenko. Yes, Comrade Lieutenant. Baranov. You could face execution for sabotage. Ovcharenko. Yes, Comrade Lieutenant. Then he added, but 4 assistant gunners are already dead from following regulations. I'd rather face trial than watch a 5th man die. Standoff. Political officer versus practical soldier. Doctrine versus survival. 10:35. Captain Vasily Chwikov arrived. Company commander, 38 years old. Career officer. Fought in the Finnish War. Knew combat. Knew what worked and what didn't. Outranked the political officer. Walked directly to Baranov and Ovcharenko. Saw the situation immediately. Asked one question. Lieutenant Baranov, how many Germans did Sergeant Ovcharenko kill this morning? Baranov hesitated. Didn't want to answer. But couldn't refuse direct question from superior officer. 6 confirmed, Comrade Captain. But regulations clearly state, Chwikov interrupted. How many assistant gunners has Sergeant Ovcharenko lost following regulations? Baranov. 4, Comrade Captain. But doctrine requires, Chikov interrupted again. 4 dead following doctrine. 0 dead using rope. The mathematics seem clear. Baranov. Comrade Captain, unauthorized modifications violate. Chikov. Show me the regulation that forbids rope-carrying harnesses. Baranov opened his mouth, closed it, thought. The manual covered mounting requirements, covered maintenance procedures, covered ammunition handling, covered crew organization. Never specifically mentioned carrying methods. Never said rope harnesses forbidden. Regulations prohibited only what they explicitly prohibited. This wasn't explicitly prohibited. Baranov. The spirit of the regulations. Chikov. I don't command spirits, Lieutenant. I command soldiers. Soldiers need to survive. This rope helps them survive. Unless you can show me specific prohibition, I see no violation. Baranov tried again. The Maxim requires mounting. Chikov. For sustained fire operations, yes. Sergeant Ovcharenko isn't conducting sustained fire. He's conducting mobile defensive operations, different tactical situation, different requirements. Chikov turned to Ovcharenko. Sergeant, can other machine gunners replicate this harness? Ovcharenko. Yes, Comrade Captain. Simple construction. Any soldier with rope and basic knot knowledge. Chikov. Good. Lieutenant Baranov, I see no modified equipment here. I see improvised carrying method. Unless you wish to report that our soldiers are showing initiative and solving tactical problems, I suggest we return to more pressing matters, like killing Germans. Dismissal. Clear. Baranov saluted, left. Angry but overruled. The precedent was set, not officially approved, not officially forbidden, existing in doctrinal gray area where survival lived. September 24th. Kuznetsov built his harness, used cargo straps from destroyed German truck. Canvas webbing, stronger than parachute cord, heavier but more durable. Followed Ovcharenko's design. Shoulder straps, support loop, chest strap. Tested it morning of the 24th. Carried his Maxim 200 yards. Weight distribution worked. Afternoon of the 24th, Germans attacked his position. 1400 hours. Standard assault. Kuznetsov opened fire from fixed position. Killed 3 Germans. Others flanked. Kuznetsov detached gun from mount. 60 seconds. Slipped harness on. Relocated 120 yards. Germans reached his old position. Found empty mount. Confusion. Kuznetsov fired from new position. 4 round bursts. Killed 2 more Germans. Germans withdrew. Kuznetsov survived. 0 wounds. His assistant gunner, Private Dmitri Volkov, survived. Also 0 wounds. Previous assistant gunner had died after 6 days. Volkov was now on day 9 and alive. The harness worked. 2 machine gunners confirmed. Word spread faster. Evening of September 24th, 6 machine gunners asked Ovcharenko and Kuznetsov for advice. How to build harness, what materials, what knots. Both men explained. Drew diagrams in dirt, showed construction. By evening of September 25th, 8 machine gunners had harnesses. By September 27th, 14. By September 30th, 23. No orders, no authorization, just soldiers who wanted to live. The innovation spread through survival pressure. Natural selection at work. Machine gunners using harnesses survived. Machine gunners using mounts died. Simple biology. Adapt or die. 23 adapted. Improvised variations emerged immediately. Not everyone had parachute cord. Corporal Mikhail Petrov used leather straps from destroyed vehicle upholstery. Senior Sergeant Ivan Sokolov used tent canvas folded and sewn. Private Yuri Lebedev used woven telephone wire. Sergeant Anton Medvedev used German equipment webbing stripped from dead soldiers. Each design slightly different. Different materials, different knot patterns, different weight distributions. But all achieved same result. Converted fixed machine gun into mobile machine gun. Converted crew-served weapon into one-man weapon. Converted defensive liability into tactical advantage. Each gunner customized based on available materials and personal preference. Petrov's leather harness was most comfortable but required maintenance. Sokolov's canvas harness was most durable but heaviest. Lebedev's wire harness was lightest but cut into shoulders. Medvedev's captured German webbing was best engineered but required killing Germans to acquire materials. No standard design emerged. Didn't need to. Each gunner built what worked for his body, his gun, his situation. Field innovation didn't require standardization, required effectiveness. 23 different harnesses, 23 effective solutions. Survival statistics shifted immediately, measurable, quantifiable, undeniable. September 1st through 22nd, 1942, 47 machine gun crews lost in the regiment, 68% casualty rate, 3 weeks, 47 crews, average survival, 4.8 days. September 23rd through 30th, 11 crews lost, 8 were crews using traditional mount method, 3 were crews using harness method. Harness users, 13% casualty rate over 8 days. Mount users, 68% casualty rate over same period. The difference was statistically significant, impossible to ignore. Officers noticed. Captain Chwikov reported to Major Sokolov, battalion commander. Major Sokolov reported to Colonel Govorov, regimental commander. Colonel Govorov reported to division headquarters. Each report mentioned unofficial modification to carrying methods. Each report mentioned improved crew survival rates. Each report mentioned no apparent doctrinal violations. Each report requested guidance. No guidance came. Division headquarters studied the reports. Division political officer investigated personally. October 2nd. Found 23 machine gunners using harnesses. Found improved casualty statistics. Found no specific regulation violations. Wrote report. Improvised carrying methods observed in 62nd Army machine gun units. Methods appear effective for urban terrain operations. No action recommended pending further evaluation. Bureaucratic translation. This works, but we won't admit doctrine was wrong. We'll ignore it and hope it continues working. By October 15th, 67 machine gunners in 62nd Army used harness variations, spread through informal networks, gunner to gunner, unit to unit, survival stories. Ovcharenko's using rope and he's alive. Kuznetsov moved his gun 3 times in one engagement. Petrov's been in combat 32 days and hasn't lost an assistant gunner. Stories spread faster than orders, more convincing than doctrine. You couldn't argue with survival. No official training existed, no official authorization granted, no official recognition given. But spreading rapidly through the force that mattered most, soldiers who didn't want to die. German intelligence noticed. Late September combat reports from 305th Infantry Division mentioned unusual Soviet machine gun behavior. Soviet machine gun positions relocating faster than previously observed. Machine gun fire coming from unexpected positions during assault operations. Soviet gunners demonstrating increased mobility in defensive operations. Oberleutnant Hans Wegener commanded 2nd Platoon, 1st Company, 505th Infantry Regiment. Experienced officer. Fought at Stalingrad since August. Knew Soviet patterns. Knew how long Soviet machine gunners needed to relocate. 7 minutes minimum. His platoon had killed 12 Soviet machine gun crews using that knowledge. Flank during relocation. Kill during assembly. Simple tactic. Worked repeatedly. September 28th changed that. Wegener's platoon assaulted Soviet position at Dzerzhinsky tractor factory. Soviet machine gunner opened fire at 250 yards. Standard. Wegener's squads took cover. Began flanking movements. Standard counter. 4 minutes later, flanking squad reached Soviet position. Found abandoned mount. No gunner. Machine gun fire came from different position 100 yards left. Impossible. Soviet crews couldn't relocate that fast. Wegener's after-action report stated, Soviet machine gun crew demonstrated mobility inconsistent with standard Maxim M1910 employment. Crew relocated approximately 100 meters in estimated 3 to 4 minutes. Recommend investigation of possible equipment modifications. Report went to Battalion Intelligence. Battalion forwarded to Division. Division Intelligence analyzed. Conclusion: unknown. No captured equipment showed modifications. No prisoners reported changes. Mystery remained. October 8th. German squad from 389th Infantry Division overran Soviet strongpoint. Found abandoned Maxim M1910. Rope harness still attached. Parachute cord, shoulder straps, support loop. Obvious field modification. German intelligence photographed it. Detailed documentation. Sent photographs to division headquarters. Analysis conducted. Report concluded, crude improvised carrying system allows single operator to transport machine gun without wheeled mount. Reduces crew size and relocation time. Likely reduces accuracy and sustained fire capability. Not assessed as significant tactical innovation due to reduced effective range and cooling efficiency. German intelligence was partially correct. Accuracy did suffer. Cooling was less efficient. But they missed the critical point. Imperfect mobile gun beat perfect fixed gun when the enemy could flank faster than you could relocate. German tactics depended on exploiting Soviet mobility limitations. Harness eliminated those limitations. Germans couldn't adapt quickly. Their doctrine assumed Soviet machine guns were fixed positions. When those positions became mobile, German assault tactics became less effective. German casualty rates increased in sectors where harness adoption was high. October 1942. 305 Division reported 23% increase in casualties during urban assault operations. November 1942. 389 Division noted, Soviet machine gun fire demonstrating unexpected mobility. December 1942. Multiple German units requested tactical guidance for engaging mobile Soviet heavy weapons. Guidance never came. German command didn't understand what had changed. Just knew something had. Soviet machine gunners were harder to kill. Soviet defensive positions were harder to flank. Small tactical shift. Large strategic impact. Combat effectiveness examples accumulated. Corporal Mikhail Petrov. October 12th. Using harness 18 days. German assault on his position at 0730. 32 German infantry. Standard 3 group attack. Petrov opened fire. Killed 4 Germans. German flanking movements began. Petrov relocated. 90 seconds. Fired for new position. Killed 3 more Germans. Germans adjusted. Flanked new position. Petrov relocated again. 75 seconds. Third position. Fired. Killed 2 more. 30-minute engagement. 4 different firing positions. 9 Germans killed. 0 Soviet casualties. Petrov survived unwounded. Without harness, he would have died at first position. The mount couldn't move fast enough. Senior Sergeant Ivan Sokolov. October 19th. New to harness method. Using only 3 days. German attack at 1300 hours. 20 Germans. Sokolov fired from initial position. Germans flanked. Sokolov moved with gun. Fired from different position. Germans broke off attack. Confused by mobile gun. Sokolov's assessment afterward. The rope saved my life. Germans expected fixed position. I gave them moving target. Sergeant Dmitri Kozlov, October 23rd. Most experienced harness user after Ovcharenko. 31 days using method. Survived 8 combat engagements. Previous assistant gunner, following traditional doctrine. Survived 6 days. Kozlov attributed survival directly to mobility. Quoted in company report, "I don't stay still long enough to die. Germans can't hit what keeps moving." Statistics supported the claim. Kozlov fired his Maxim in 23 separate engagements, October 1st through 31st. Relocated during 14 of those engagements. Average relocations per engagement, 2.3. Average German casualties per engagement, 4.7. Kozlov's casualties, 0. His assistant gunner's casualties, 0. The harness worked. Not perfectly, not by the manual, but well enough to keep soldiers alive. In Stalingrad during autumn 1942, that was all that mattered. October 25, 1942. Divisional Political Department sent investigation team to 62nd Army machine gun units. 3 political officers, 2 technical specialists. Mission: document unauthorized equipment modifications. 5 days of investigation. Interviews with 67 machine gunners using harness systems. Interviews with company commanders. Interviews with battalion staff. Examination of captured German intelligence reports. Statistical analysis of casualty rates. Final report submitted November 1st. Conclusion: improvised carrying methods observed in multiple machine gun units. Methods do not violate specific equipment regulations, as no regulations explicitly forbid alternative carrying techniques. Statistical evidence suggests reduced casualty rates in units employing improvised methods. Recommendation: no action required. Continue monitoring effectiveness. Bureaucratic masterpiece. Acknowledged the innovation existed. Acknowledged it worked. Recommended doing nothing. Why? Admitting the harness worked meant admitting doctrine was flawed. Admitting doctrine was flawed meant explaining why 847 crews died following that doctrine. Explaining those deaths meant political officers answering uncomfortable questions. Easier to ignore. Easier to classify as local field expedient rather than doctrinal correction. The harness would never appear in Field Manual 43-217. Would never be taught at machine gun training schools. Would never receive official recognition. But it would spread to every Soviet army fighting in urban terrain. Leningrad, Warsaw, Königsberg, Berlin. Because soldiers talked. Because survival mattered more than paperwork. November 1942. Stavka received consolidated reports from Stalingrad front. High command analysts noticed anomaly in machine gun crew casualty statistics. June through September, 847 crews lost. October through November, 41 crews lost, 80% reduction. Multiple factors contributed. German offensive exhaustion, estimated 30% of reduction. Improved Soviet defensive positions, estimated 25%. Better coordination with infantry support, estimated 20%. Unknown factors, 25%. That unknown factor was rope harnesses, but Stavka never identified it specifically. Marshal Zhukov's staff discussed Stalingrad casualties briefly during November 15th planning session. Topic: machine gun employment effectiveness, consensus, improved performance due to accumulated combat experience and tactical refinement. Nobody mentioned parachute cord, nobody mentioned Ovcharenko. The innovation that saved hundreds of lives remained invisible to high command. Stalin never knew, would never know. A dock worker from Odessa solved a problem that killed 847 trained soldiers, and the bureaucracy classified it as unknown factors. Conservative statistical analysis of lives saved. Documented machine gun crew losses, 62nd Army, September through December 1942. September 1st through 22nd, 47 crews lost. Casualty rate, 68% monthly. Expected losses October through December at September rate, 189 crews. Actual losses October through December, 73 crews. Difference, 116 crews. 232 individual soldiers. This in one army, one sector. Extrapolated across Stalingrad front, 4 armies engaged in urban combat. If harness adoption rates were similar, 464 crews potentially saved. 928 individual machine gunners who lived instead of died. Impossible to verify exact numbers. Records incomplete. Many units destroyed. Documentation lost. But pattern consistent across all available after-action reports. Machine gun crew survival rates improved dramatically, October through December. Primary variable, harness adoption. German casualty statistics showed inverse correlation. German infantry losses increased in sectors with high Soviet machine gun harness adoption. October 1942, 305 Infantry Division casualties increased 23% compared to September. November, 389 Division casualties increased 18%. December, multiple divisions reported difficulties engaging unexpectedly mobile Soviet defensive positions. German tactical doctrine assumed Soviet machine guns were fixed. When that assumption became false, German assault effectiveness declined. One rope harness didn't change the war. But hundreds of rope harnesses changed local tactical balance, made German attacks more costly, made Soviet defenses more survivable. Small changes, large cumulative effect. Ovcharenko continued fighting through October and November. 17 more combat engagements. Estimated 43 Germans killed. Never wounded during this period. Rope harness used in every engagement. Modified it twice. First modification, added padding to shoulder straps. Parachute cord cut into shoulders after extended wear. Used torn uniform fabric as padding. Second modification. Created quick release mechanism for ammunition box. Allowed faster reloading. Shared both modifications with other gunners. By November, most harness users incorporated similar improvements. Ovcharenko's reputation in the regiment, the walking gun. Soldiers knew him by sight. Machine gunner who moved like riflemen, who fired standing, who survived when others died. But no official recognition, no medals, no commendations. Just Senior Sergeant D.V. Ovcharenko, machine gunner, still alive when statistics said he should be dead. December 8, 1942, German artillery barrage. Ovcharenko's position took direct hit from 105 mm shell. Shrapnel wounds, left leg, right shoulder, not immediately life-threatening but incapacitating. Evacuated across Volga to field hospital. Surgery removed shrapnel fragments. Recovery time, 6 weeks. His rope harness was lost during evacuation. Medics cut it off to treat wounds. Parachute cord soaked with blood, discarded. 20 meters of cord that saved his life, thrown away as medical waste. January 19, 1943. Ovcharenko returned to unit. German forces in retreat. Stalingrad siege breaking. Soviet offensive pushing west. His original harness gone. Built new one. Used canvas webbing and leather straps. Heavier than parachute cord, more durable. Used it through end of Stalingrad battle. February 2nd, 1943. German surrender. 91,000 prisoners. Stalingrad secured. Ovcharenko survived. Promoted to Starshina, Senior Sergeant, February 10th. Not for the harness, for exemplary service in defensive operations. The harness wasn't mentioned. Continued fighting westward. Kursk, July 1943. Wounded again. Minor hand wound from rifle bullet. Treated at aid station. Returned to duty after 4 days. Ukraine campaign. Autumn 1943. Winter 1943 to 44. By now, many Soviet machine gunners used harness variations. His original innovation had spread throughout the Red Army. Urban combat units, assault units, reconnaissance units. Anywhere mobility mattered more than sustained fire. But Ovcharenko received no special status. Just another sergeant with machine gun. Fighting, surviving, moving west toward Germany. March 15, 1944. Advance into Romania. Approaching Iași. German counterattack, strong, organized, well executed. Ovcharenko's company defending crossroads position. German infantry assault supported by armor. Ovcharenko fired from building second floor. Harness allowed him to move between windows. Engaged German infantry from multiple angles. Effective. Killed estimated 9 Germans. German forces overran position. Close combat. Grenades, submachine guns. Ovcharenko fought, hand-to-hand at the end. German stick grenade. Close range. Killed instantly. Age 34. Buried in field cemetery near Iași. Grave marker. Simple wooden cross. Senior Sergeant D.V. Ovcharenko. Machine gunner. Killed March 15, 1944. No mention of rope harness. No mention of innovation. No mention that his ideas saved hundreds of lives. Just another casualty, another name, another grave. His personal effects were sent home. Standard procedure. Mother in Odessa received notification May 1944. Small package. Uniform buttons. Identification papers. Worn rope harness. She didn't understand the harness. Canvas webbing with leather straps. Strange construction. Didn't look military. Used it as clothesline. Practical use. Dock worker's son. Dock worker's mother. Practical people. Discarded the harness 1946. Wore out. Replaced with proper clothesline. Physical evidence of the innovation lost. Only memories remained. And memories fade. Senior Sergeant Boris Kuznetsov survived the war. Used harness from September 24, 1942 until May 8, 1945. Fought through Stalingrad, Kursk, Warsaw, Berlin. 63 confirmed kills. Awarded Order of the Red Star, November 1943. Citation. For exceptional machine gun employment in defensive and offensive operations. Never mentioned harness. Survived war. Returned to Leningrad. Worked as factory supervisor. Died 1979, age 58. Interviewed by military historian in 1967. Described rope harness as the innovation the Army forgot. Said it saved his life minimum 20 times. Said Ovcharenko deserved Hero of the Soviet Union. Never received recognition. Historian's notes archived. Never published. Sergeant Ivan Sokolov used harness October 1942 through May 1945. Wounded 4 times. Never killed. Survived to Berlin. Photographed with harness in Berlin, May 2, 1945. One of few photographic records. Shows harness clearly. Canvas construction, shoulder straps, support loops, gun mounted. Sokolov smiling. Background, Reichstag building. Soviet flag. Victory. Sokolov. Returned to Kursk. Factory foreman. Died 1989, age 67. His Berlin photograph donated to local war museum. Museum label, Red Army machine gunner, Berlin, 1945. No mention of harness significance, just another photograph. Another soldier, another story lost. Estimated total users of harness variations, impossible to determine precisely. No official records. Unauthorized modifications weren't documented. Conservative estimate, 300 to 500 machine gunners. Liberal estimate, 1,000 to 1,500. Spread primarily through urban warfare units. Stalingrad, Leningrad blockade, Kursk street fighting, Warsaw uprising support, Berlin assault. Less common in open terrain warfare. Steppes, fields, rural operations. Mount worked fine there. Harness was urban innovation, urban solution, urban survival tool, essentially forgotten after war ended. Soviet military histories analyzed Stalingrad, analyzed machine gun tactics, noted improved tactical flexibility in urban terrain. Never specifically mentioned rope harnesses. Western military analysis during Cold War noticed casualty discrepancies. NATO analysts studied Soviet tactics, found references to field expedients in heavy weapons employment. Dismissed as desperate measures, never recognized as significant innovation. Modern military historians, 2000s onward, rediscovered the story, found references in veterans' memoirs, located Sokolov's photograph, interviewed surviving family members, reconstructed basic facts, recognized significance. But story remains obscure. Specialist knowledge, not widely taught, not in standard histories. What the rope harness proved: doctrine kills when reality changes faster than manuals. A 32-year-old dock worker with no engineering training solved tactical problem that killed 847 professionally trained soldiers. Innovation doesn't require permission, requires desperation and practical thinking. 4 assistant gunners died following regulations: Ilya, Pavel, Sergei, Konstantin. Died doing exactly what doctrine prescribed. They deserved better. Ovcharenko gave them better. Too late for those 4. In time for hundreds of others. 20 meters of parachute cord, more valuable than 21 kilograms of wheeled mount. More valuable than Field Manual 43-217. More valuable than official doctrine, because cord kept soldiers alive. Manuals didn't. Simple mathematics. Brutal mathematics. War mathematics. Ovcharenko died March 15, 1944. 34 years old. Buried in Romania. Grave lost. Cemetery destroyed during post-war construction. No memorial, no monument, no official recognition. Just Senior Sergeant Dmitri Vasilyevich Ovcharenko. Dock worker from Odessa. Machine gunner. Who thought about cargo and rope and weight distribution. Who saved hundreds of lives with parachute cord and practical thinking. Who proved that survival requires breaking rules. Who died anyway. Because even the best innovation can't make war safe. Can only make it slightly more survivable. For slightly more soldiers. For slightly longer. Until the next grenade. The next bullet. The next artillery shell. The rope saved hundreds. Couldn't save everyone. Couldn't save him. That's war. That's history. That's the story nobody remembered to tell. Until now.